so I can send this out after the fact. But I'd like to welcome those of you who are here to our session on using Pressbooks to author OER. You all know me, and I'm joined today by Adriana Ojeda, who is the IT consultant. I'm sorry, IT support consultant who administers Pressbooks for ITS. And so how we're going to kind of do this today is I have just a few slides to kind of run through pretty quickly, and then we want to really spend a lot of the time talking to you all about, whatever Pressbook issues you have. And between Adriana and I, hopefully we can answer your questions, give you some helpful tips and things like that. So real briefly, we'll kind of go over the Pressbooks interface from a reader's perspective, and then from an author's perspective. And then we'll walk through adding content to Pressbooks. So how to add basic text, but also images, multimedia, H5P integrations, things like that. And then we'll just spend a few minutes talking about citations, since that seems to be something that people have questions about quite a bit. And then before we get started, I did just want to mention that we do have a lot of help available for Pressbooks. So Adriana can help with any of the sort of technical issues that you might be having with Pressbooks, or any kind of features that you don't see. She can help sort of troubleshoot them or enable them for you if they don't come with your standard Pressbooks account. I can always help too with reviewing content. You can always invite me to be a contributor to your book, and I'd be happy to look over image tags and citations and things like that. And then finally, you can always make an appointment with the library's Digital Scholarship and Publishing Studio. They can kind of help do more of a deep dive on design issues and things like that. So just to make sure that we're not being totally redundant with this content, I'm going to launch a poll right now that should just take you a couple minutes to kind of run through. It's just 3 questions asking whether or not you have a Pressbooks instance already set up, and how much experience you have with that. I think the 3 attendees on the call today are from our Italian project. And so I know that they do have some experience using Pressbooks. So if you guys don't want to answer that, that's fine. I have a little background information about your project. Okay, that's fine if you guys don't want to answer. But I'll share my screen now and just kind of get started with the slides. Okay, so hopefully everybody can see the slide deck here. So I wanted to start by talking a little bit about the webbook homepage, which is kind of the interface that people first see when they're encountering your Pressbook. Probably all of you have seen kind of this interface before, but when you share out a link to your Pressbook, this is what people first see. And so they all have certain elements in common, this kind of bibliographic information on the top. So that includes the title, author, a description of the book, and then the licensing information. There's also, by number 2 here, a cover image. And so there's kind of 2 main styles that people use for this. Sometimes people will just include an image with no text, and they'll kind of let the information under item 1 kind of serve as the cover info. Other people actually put the cover or the title and certain information about author and things on the image itself. If you would like some help with that, like mocking up a cover image that you can put in this sort of space, you can always work with either me or the studio to kind of get that started. It's fine to just put an image there too, if that's your preference though. Below that, you'll see there's options for downloading the book. This is kind of controlled by the author. Authors decide in what formats to publish all of these materials. It's always best to kind of try to publish more formats than less, just because people will have lots of different systems that they're using to read your resource. So it's good to offer lots of options. Below that, you can see we've got the table of contents. All of the books have that from the main screen that you can click into specific parts or chapters so that you don't have to flip through the book. And then it's not shown on this page because the image is too big, but below the contents area, there's some additional book information. And that's where you can put additional qualifiers to your license. If there's other sort of attributions you want to pull in, you can put them there. If you want to give a suggested attribution, so like a way that people would cite your book if they're going to be using it in the future, you can put that in the book metadata as well. But that's just kind of a brief overview of the webbook homepage. So when readers click on that view book button, this one, read book, the one that kind of in the middle of the screen here, this is the interface that they are taken to. This is the reading view. And from this interface, readers can navigate through the text, they can search within it, and they can interact with the interactive elements that are in the book, so videos and quizzes and other integrations. And they can sort of access all of the content through this kind of collapsible menu in the right-hand side of this, or the left-hand side of the screen. As I mentioned before, there's also ways to download the webbook as long as the author has exported it to the various formats. So, an EPUB format would help you with like a Kindle, I believe, and other readers. PDF is, more of a portable document. HTML, XHTML, all of these are, make it easier for people to edit the native text. Same with ODT. This is kind of an overview of the editing interface. It's a very simple kind of WYSIWYG editor that you can use to enter text, upload images, format your text, add H5P. You can also kind of toggle between the visual editor and the HTML editor. If you are well versed in coding, that can be a good way to kind of go in and customize the look and feel. You also have the ability to control the status and visibility of the page that you're working on and kind of move it around the book in various parts or chapters. So this is the menu that you see when you're actually trying to organize the book. So Pressbook features kind of a drop and drag interface. So you can create content and kind of move it around in whatever part of the book you want to add it to. When you kind of create a standard Pressbook, it comes sort of loaded with an area for front matter, an area for back matter, and an area for kind of central content. And the front matter is where you would put things like introductions, acknowledgements, any kind of notes that you'd want to include about adapting the resource or anything like that. Back matter can be used for appendices, indices, things like that. And then the main kind of body of the book is what's between those two things. And so you can organize your Pressbook using parts and chapters. And Adriana, feel free to jump in and explain this better than I am going to do, because So the part is kind of the larger component than the chapter, right? So the part might be a section of a book, or a short kind of subheading that would encapsulate what several chapters are about. They're sort of below it. And oftentimes the part itself doesn't have any content. It's just sort of a marker within the table of content so that you can structure your content sort of hierarchically, but you can add content to the part. You can designate something as a part and add content to it, but you can also, if you have lots of chapters that are sort of subordinate to that part, you might want to consider leaving it sort of blank. And then from that organizational interface, you can choose whether or not various chapters should be shown in the exports or shown in the web. Some reasons you may want to not show a particular piece of content in the exports is if you have a lot of interactive material. If you're exporting it to PDF or other formats, you won't be able to interact with the integrations that are in the book. So that might be one reason, although some people still choose to include those things in the exports. In terms of adding interactive elements, it's very easy to do that in Pressbooks. You can simply add a link to YouTube videos, to simulations, to any other sort of interactive content you find, and Pressbooks will display it within the book as an iframe, so that you don't have to do any special coding. You don't have to grab embed code or anything like that. You can just put the link in and it will appear for you. Another thing you might want to consider is developing your own sort of interactive widget or component that you can live within the chapter that you're working on. And you can do that through the H5P elements that are built into Pressbooks. I think there's a menu choice, like a main menu choice from on the left side of the navigation, where you can access the H5P builder.
Yep.
Okay, good. And then there's like all different types of things that you can create. Some of the more common ones that I've seen are like quizzes, definitely. The question set or the single choice set. There's also, the ability to capture spoken words, true false tests, virtual tours, hotspots. There's all sorts of flashcards, things that you can build into your book There's also things, H5P integrations that already exist and can be found in various OER libraries or educational sites. There's one here on the screen, h5p.org. If you find one that already exists, you can also just paste that into the text editor of Pressbooks and incorporate that too. Here's an example of somebody building an H5P quiz. This is a multiple choice one, and you can kind of see it's pretty similar to what you might encounter in Icon or Qualtrics or anything like that. Here's some examples of integrations that are actually being used in a couple Pressbooks. This one is a hotspot. The one on the left is a hotspot. And so you can see this person has kind of added annotations to various parts of this image so that when the user clicks on the plus sign, they'll have more information about each one of these objects. So it's kind of an interesting way of using that. And the one on the right here is an example of a flashcard, I believe. So they're showing a picture and then you have to type in the answer and hit check and it will tell you whether or not the answer is correct. Now, for the H5P integrations, one thing to be aware of is that these do not link with the Icon gradebook. And so if you want to see your students' results, you may have to think about how you're going to do that. One way, I know I'm not sure about the H5P activities that are embedded within Pressbooks, but if you're, for instance, wanting your students to take a quiz and you're wanting to see the answers, you could always use a Google form instead so that you could, see the results, see the back end of that. But it's some of the integrations that are available for Pressbooks are a little more easy to use and a little more customizable than Google Forms. So it's kind of, you have to weigh, I guess, the necessity of seeing the answers versus, the potential usability of the integration. Another thing you might want to consider adding into your Pressbook in terms of additional integrations are Hypothesis, which is an example of a social annotation platform, which allows you to add sort of discussion in a classroom setting, or you can use it to gather feedback if you're sort of publishing your Pressbook and wanting others to sort of engage with it and provide feedback. This is an example, I think, of a class sort of analyzing a poem, right? So, you can highlight certain parts of the text, add a note. This can be really helpful if you're wanting to know how students are engaging with the book. You can also do it with images and video too. So it's not just text. And I believe that you can kind of choose who can engage with Hypothesis and not. So, you can kind of consider whether you want it to just be for your students or whether or not you want to turn it on for everyone. And then finally, I just wanted to say a few words about citation. So we do get a lot of questions from people who have used a lot of sources in their OER, and they want to make sure that they're not, violating any norms or, screwing up their citations. Most people aren't in fact doing that, but it is sort of, it's sort of a bit of a change in perspective when you're working with OER, because you're oftentimes taking large chunks of content from another person's work. And, in traditional publishing, that's sort of, seen as something you don't do. But in OER, because, work is explicitly licensed for that purpose, it's definitely allowed as long as you are citing things properly. So I have an example here of a pretty standard license or a pretty standard citation to an existing Pressbook. This was one that I was looking at when I was kind of reading about Hypothesis and how to integrate it with Pressbooks. And so I just took a screen grab of the citation that was in the book. And so you can see it has these common elements that you should see in most attributions and citations within OER. So it's got the title of the book. It's got the link embedded into that title. It's got the author here, and then it tells us the license that it was used to publish. So it's got the link to the license itself. It's got the icons and everything like that. And that's telling the reader, that this is being reused with permission, right? One thing, just a few tips about attribution. One is that I would consider using this tool called Open Washington Attribution Builder rather than trying to create your attributions by scratch. It just saves time and you don't have to worry too much about formatting. So for each of your sources that you're using, you can enter the title, the URL, the author, and any sort of organization or project that's affiliated with the book. Choose the license that's accompanying the work. And then it will spit out an attribution for you that you can just copy and paste right into your Pressbook. Another tip that I would have in that regard is you want to make sure you're displaying the citations consistently. So, and you can do this in a couple of different ways. One is to use footnotes. So you could always, include a little introduction to like maybe a chapter that you're using wholesale, that sort of explains how you're using the book, and then add a footnote to the attribution. Or if you're in Pressbooks, you can also go, if you're in the view where you're editing a chapter, if you go down to the end of the screen, you'll see there's a section for chapter metadata where you can add information about the author, title, licensing, and stuff like that. So you could always add the attribution in that area as well. Either one is fine. You just kind of want to make sure that you are being consistent across your chapters. And then finally, you'll want to kind of contextualize your use for readers. So, if you're taking a whole chapter from an existing OER and just sort of using it wholesale, you can certainly do that, but you just want to make sure that you're telling your students, yes, this was taken from this other resource. Or if you're adapting it, you kind of want to tell them that too. And, make it really clear to them, like what part of it is original authorship and what part is taken from other sources. Okay, so that's kind of, just a brief run through of some commonly gone through topics and questions that people have. So now we'd like to hear from you all and what you're kind of struggling with in Pressbooks, or questions you have, or things that you are unclear about.
Well, I can start. Now, I'm having issues when I export the book into a PDF, because the tables do not appear in the PDF. I mean, it appears the content, but not the tables.
Okay, so the content's there, but it's not formatted as a table?
Yeah, the table that I prepared using what's the integrated thing that's there that I don't remember, table press. Yeah.
But it's showing up like in the webbook view. Okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever encountered that before, Adriana?
I have not. I was going to say, we did have one issue with an individual trying to export and images not coming out correctly. And that was because their images were linked to a Google Drive file rather than being imported into their Pressbook and kind of linked there. But I have not heard of the table issue. If you'd like, I can go in kind of through the back end and see if there's anything I can see maybe from sort of the backside of it, and see if there's anything I could see there.
Okay.
Or maybe, Irene, you could share the screen. You. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, I can share the screen and see. Okay, so for example, let's see if I get to maybe this one. So this is what I have, okay? Those are the tables. Now, if I go to, to my, let's see if it's still there. That's the, yes. First of all, the font is very, very large, but I mean, that wouldn't be an issue. But yeah, for example, all those, they were actually tables. Yeah, that was a table. Or the one that I just showed you, there was, let's see.
It was the article.
Yeah. Oh, it was before probably, but that's, yeah. So all those parts were actually tables in the, let me show
I see.
It almost looks like it's still in the table format, but it doesn't show the lines almost.
It didn't capture the lines for some reason. Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And all those, let's see. This one, and then when I go back to sorry, now that is the that's what I have. Okay.
Yeah, that is pretty different.
That's what I see here, and plus even this one is awful. I mean, looking at that, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I can do is I can reach out directly to the Pressbooks support team, and they should be able to tell me what exactly is happening. It looks like it is a formatting
I mean,
issue.
it's pretty nice
Mhm.
in the
Right, in the actual.
I mean,
Pressbooks
it's
site.
clear, you know, it's what we
Mhm.
needed. It's clear. Students can go there and highlight whatever what they have to do,
Mhm.
and then if you have you go to the PDF. This is
Yeah.
what you have.
Right. It looks very different. Yeah. Yeah, I'm unfortunately I'm not sure exactly what's happening, but it looks like it is happening just in the formatting when you export it. So I can reach out to the Pressbooks team, support team though, and they can reach out. They usually reach back in about a day or two.
Okay. And the
mhm.
other thing is that, is it possible to kind of modify the table? Like, for example, making a little less wide, narrow, or something like this?
I'm not sure. And I mean, I don't know that you can really customize that or to what extent. I haven't really tried to ever add a table to Pressbooks myself, but
I mean, there is the other option that is using the table. Let's see if I have one, and I don't remember if I do. The one that, you know, that says, sorry, if I have here.
While you're looking,
like,
you
like this one,
can
okay?
change.
That's kind of a, you can do it as a table, but it's very basic. I mean, the point of having a table is because this was a little nicer compared to the just the black line and, you know, the color, and that's it.
If you, I believe you can change the width. I believe. This is Shelby. I'm going to keep my video off for now. I believe so. If you're in the editing part of your book, I believe if you click on your table and then you click on like the.
Need to go to the table press. So for example, let's see. All tables. Let's see. I get one. I don't know. Let me get one. Yeah, I can get this one.
So if you were to click anywhere on the table itself, it should bring up an icon from like the toolbar where you can click on table properties.
No, not for this table. That's the one that is made to table press.
Say that again.
Yeah, this table was created to the table press function, and that's the only way to modify the table, going back to this page.
Yeah, but somewhere on here, there should be, I would have to play around with it. I haven't done it since we did the chemistry Pressbook, which was a while ago. There is a function though, where because the tables typically in Pressbook are adjusted based off, you can adjust the height and width of tables. And it's based on either a percentage or on the pixel value. So one of the two. It's just a matter of finding where in here. And maybe this is something, Adriana, that since you have access from the backside, I don't know if this is something that you can like look into, not to add things to your table, Adriana, but to look into on the backside. Because I don't have access to it, but I know that there is a way to change, and you can change it via either a percentage or through the pixel value, but you're allowed to change the height and width. So you're not stuck with specific table.
But is it the table that you embedded? I mean, the other table, the one that is close to the one that we created on icon, or the table on table press? That's my question.
You should be able to, no matter the table, you should be able to adjust it within Pressbook.
Okay.
Either, any.
Okay.
In
okay.
theory, it's just how you go about it. I can't remember off the top of my head, but, and so I apologize, this isn't a full answer here, but you should be able to, because we ran into this when we were doing a different book, and it was, I think part of it, we ended up doing part of the coding, but in here, so if you go to that table icon right underneath formats, maybe that caret, the downward caret.
Because the thing is that this is how I see the table when I embed it, you know, I mean, that's just the code. I don't actually see the table. I mean, the one that I can change is this one. Is this one, okay? That's the one that you create and you can change it. I know that, but I'm actually talking about a table that you create through Table Press.
Sure. I know there's a way, and this might have been the way that we had to do it through coding. Okay. I apologize. I'll stop talking now.
It's just I'm asking it.
No, you're fine. I'll stop talking because I need to go back and review the chemistry, but there is a way to do it. It just took a lot of digging, and Adriana, I can maybe talk to you off of this and maybe we can figure out a way.
Sure, yeah, that'd be great, because I have not encountered this before either. So that would be good to kind of see how that works on the backside of things.
Yeah, I agree. I think I've heard from other people who've tried to work with tables and Pressbooks that I don't know if this is the specific issue they're running into, but I've heard that they don't often display how people want them to. So it would be great to get some clarity on this issue. We can kind of work behind the scenes on that, I think, and try to figure out what's going on with that. It would be nice if there was some kind of advanced settings or something for that table.
Yeah.
Or a right click is always a saver.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of, if I can intervene, I'm kind of going along with what Irene was saying. We were noticing how different it looks in the downloaded version, especially in a PDF, which most likely is one of the most common format it will be downloaded in by our students. And I remember, I don't remember what workshop was, if it was last year or previously, but that the H5P doesn't really come out at all in the downloaded version. And at the same time, there's this kind of movement trying to integrate the H5P into Icon or Canvas. So we are now starting a new book, and I wonder, even for this one that we're doing with Irene, like how much is worth investing into learning and sorting out all the H5P? How much is worth really, go through each page, you format it for an online setting and then it doesn't come out the way in the downloaded version. So, I mean, I know it kind of depends on how the student use it and how we ask them to use it, but it is a different setting. Putting things just for the downloaded side and or on the other side, putting them all in H5P, all interactive, and that nothing comes out in the downloaded version, because at that point the people who download it, they don't have, I mean, they have to use it both ways. It's not very clear to me how much I should invest, because H5P is a lot. I mean, there's a lot in there, and it's amazing. You can do basically everything you want to do, but it takes a lot of time to plan, like the tables that Irene was just looking. I mean, it took her a lot of time, months and months to get all of these things done. And then they don't come out the way you want to, or they're not very interactive with, Icon and everything. So again, I'm trying to figure out how best to proceed. If you have any, advice on that, that would be great. Both Mahrya and Adriana. I mean, I don't know really who to ask. It's just a general question.
Yeah, I think with, exporting to PDF, I mean, as far as I know, I don't think you'll ever really get the interactivity with the PDF export, just because, you know, it interacts with a live version of it. But I guess, you know, you could require your students, I guess, to interact with an HTML version, or, you know, the version that maintains the interactivity. I assume that's just the HTML version.
Do you know which one does exactly? Do you know which one does?
The reading view does for sure. So like if you wanted them to go in through the link view, but I don't know about like some of the HTML and XML exports. I don't really know. I think it kind of depends on what system you'd be like loading those in, maybe. But you mentioned icon too, and this is something I don't know anything about. So maybe Adriana and Shelby too might know this, but is there a way to create H5P integrations in icon?
As far as I've seen, I have not played around with that at all. I don't know that there is. I haven't heard of people using it, you know, in that sense. I don't know, Shelby, if you have any other experience.
I mean, I don't want to be shown to be a liar here, like I just was on the tables. I thought there was, but I am not familiar enough to really lend insight on that right now.
Because I mean, that could be another option too, is to kind of house the H5P content in icon.
Exactly.
Although I know with your project, it sounds like you guys are kind of trying to have some parallel structure between like what's in icon and then what's in the Pressbook. So I think maybe it might just be a matter of directing students to the webbook version if you really want them to be doing the integration, if you want the tables to show up. But I mean, I think, you know, we can definitely look into the table issue, you know, because this isn't the first time I've heard about issues with tables and Pressbooks. We can kind of try to get to the bottom of making sure some of that formatting gets preserved, at least. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other question I had, and probably is one that Irene had too. The format is really a little bit like it's huge in a page. There's a lot of waste of paper and page and space, and everything is doesn't come out. Is there a way to like? I don't know, I'm thinking about building websites. You know, you can have the computer websites and then you can reformat everything for like, I don't know, the cell phone view. Is there a way to do that? Like to format it into pages for just the, you know, downloaded version, or I don't know.
As far as I've seen in terms of exporting, I don't know that I've seen any specific additional settings you can set for exporting or anything like that. But I'm going to be writing up an email to the support team with all these questions because they might have more insight, I would hope. Because that is strange that it would be so large. You would think that the formatting would carry over into whatever medium you're looking at it in. So it is strange that it changes so much once you export it. So I will definitely be reaching out to them about that as well.
Yeah, to me, it's strange that, I mean, one of the thing that was, I mean, at least why Pressbook was publicized a lot was the fact that you could also download it and use it as a book, not just as an online book if you don't like to read online. So if that function doesn't work well, I mean, then that's an issue for me, because if that's one of the main reasons why you use Pressbook, you know, you use it for the online setting, but we're still living, you know, both lives in a way. So I wonder if maybe they have found a way to streamline those issues. I started using Pressbook at Indiana, well, I was before, so many years ago when they just started, you know, integrating it with university book publishing. So, you know, H5P wasn't even there. And it was already an issue, you know, it was publicized as a platform that can help you create an online book, textbook, and then you can also, you know, print it out for your student or have your student print it out. And it was a big mess, the whole printed version. So, you know, 5-6 years later, this is still not resolved for me. So I wonder, that's definitely something to ask.
Yeah. It's kind of, I mean, I've noticed that with web pages too and other forms and things, like when you export to PDF, you know, a lot of formatting is sort of lost or altered in some way. But I definitely, I mean, you know, this
Yeah.
is the first time we've heard about this issue.
No, and it's, you know, it's fine if it's not PDF, if they say, you know, EPUB is the version to go, you know, ask them to download it in HTML and they can read it on a different, that's okay. As long as it's clear what works and what doesn't, you know, if PDF doesn't work, then we're not gonna put PDF as an option. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
At least that's for me.
Mhm. Yeah, it would definitely be good to get some clarity on, you know, like what is optimal in terms of,
Yeah.
you know, download formats and how
Yeah.
to display.
To go back to 2 questions earlier. So Adriana, I will talk to you offline. There is a CSS code that you should be able to adjust the width of the columns in table press. So I believe that can be a fix, but let Adriana and I maybe work behind the scenes before we then like promise you and actually demonstrate it. I think it's just a matter of copying and pasting code into a particular spot, but we'll play around with it before we roll that out and really promise it. And then just on my quick search, there's an LTI plugin for Canvas to be able to create H5Ps. So
Awesome.
I've not done it personally, but there is a functionality. I think that would just garner additional research on that side too. And I know Adriana's part, you know, Adriana has so much information, and she also has a network of information and resources tool that she can tap into, maybe somebody else on the IS team who's done it. It's just not highly utilized maybe. So we don't come across it very often around campus, but you guys being trailblazers here, it's a great question for us to orient to. So they both seem possible, but we can't demonstrate it today. Just let us play around with it and then we'll get back to you.
Dr. Castro, do you have any questions? No. All right, well, is there anything else that anybody would like to discuss or kind of see examples of from other Pressbooks or anything?
Well, probably we will contact you to just for help for the homepage, because this, okay, I'm gonna share it again, you know, that's here. That's what we have so far. I mean, we like the image and everything. I tried to generate, you know, they generate the cover automatically, but I didn't like it, so I just deleted it because I didn't like it. So probably we will ask you.
Yeah, I like this image a lot. I think it's really striking. But yeah, we have a few tools that we can use. We have, I don't know if it's the libraries that has this license or if it's the whole university, but we have Canva that we can use to kind of mock up things like book covers. They have a lot of built-in fonts and really nice, excellent features, and it's super easy to use. So we could use that. I could even try to mock something up for you, although graphic design is really not my strong point. Another thing that you could do is just make an appointment with the studio when it's time, you know, like once you have things ready to publish, and they could help you too. We kind of have been starting some early discussions about making that more of a built-in process with OpenHawk, so people can just sort of have that be part of the publication process. But in the meantime, you can just make an appointment with them and they can help too.
Can I ask just one last thing? Is it possible to display, I know there you can display the copyright on the front page for the book. Is it possible to display something like that for images and text within the book?
Yeah, you can. So each page has kind of chapter level metadata. Great. And so that's where you can put things like citations. For images, you might, so every time you upload an image, there's kind of image metadata too. And so that's where you can put attributions and alt tags and descriptions and things like that.
Great, thank you. Yeah.
All right, any other questions or anything you want to discuss? All right, hopefully, you know, today's session wasn't just total review for everybody, and I hope you got at least a chance to kind of talk through some of the issues you're having. So we will be in touch about the tables and about some of the formatting on various exports and things too. So we'll let you know what we find out, and yeah, just let us know if you have any other questions or anything.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you all so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.